Pauline Hanson is almost a lone voice talking sense in relation to these farmers. We're talking about here and now. The crisis is terrifying. The impact on children is getting worse by the day. Pauline Hanson has said she may abstain from voting on non-critical legislation unless the Morris government acts to save dairy farmers at breaking point. Well, wait till I tell you what happened today. Pauline Hanson moved a motion in the Parliament, an urgency motion basically, to assist farmers. And it was voted upon. We'll let Pauline tell you the story. She joins us from Canberra. Pauline, good evening. Thank you for your time. Please tell our viewers what happened today.
Hello, Alan.
What happened today?
Well, we had a notice of motion on the floor of Parliament. So basically we're saying that the government should actually feed the farmer, the herds that the farmers have because they can't afford to feed them, and that the ACCC should start investigating a farm gate price for milk. Now, that went to the vote. It was 30-30, so it went down. So Labor and the Greens supported me in that vote. The Liberal National Party, they voted against it, along with Senator Rex Patrick and Sterling Griff, senators from South Australia.
Just hang on, Pauline.
Against this motion.
Stop. Just start again, because let me just say about Pauline Hanson, what she moved today in the Parliament, Pauline moved 13 months ago. She put forward a motion of support on September the 13th, 2018, that the Senate, amongst other things, note that the dairy industry was deregulated in 2000. This is 13 months ago. Since then, she said in this motion, milk production has fallen from 12 billion litres a year to 8.8 billion litres. She said the population had increased from 19 million to 25 million. She noted, this is 13 months ago, the milk production had fallen in every state, she said, in the past 12 months, that the number of dairy farms has declined in Queensland from around 1,500 to 380. She said 13 months ago in the notice of motion, which the Liberal Party and the National Party voted against, Pauline Hanson said Queensland dairy herds are now in immediate danger through a failure of the winter and summer seasonal crops, and the shortage of quality feed means it's likely that whole herds will be sent to the slaughterhouse and families destroyed. This is 13 months ago. Pauline Hanson said this in the Senate. She said the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission's dairy report was handed down in April 2018 last year and found that an increase in the fresh milk price in supermarkets would not benefit dairy farmers. It would only go to processors. She said none of the 8 recommendations in the ACCC's report have been implemented by the federal government, including the mandatory code of practice, which means that farmers are still being forced into unfair and unconscionable contracts going forward for the next 5 years. 13 months ago, she said all this. She said there's an immediate need to deal with the imbalance in bargaining power between dairy farmers and processors by legislating to make unfair contracts unlawful, because dairy farmers don't have the means to pursue these unfair contracts through the courts. And then she said it's a myth that milk prices are set by market forces because farm gate prices for milk are set by processors that are often foreign-owned. And then she called on the federal government. Now, this is 13 months ago. The fact that she's done it again today, she called on the federal government 13 months ago, one, provide immediate additional financial support to dairy farmers who cannot feed their stock. Implement all of the ACCC's recommendations. 3, regulate the price of milk per litre paid by processors to dairy farmers to ensure a viable dairy industry. That, Pauline, 13 months ago was voted down by the Coalition and Labor. You put similar sentiments up today. Just repeat again what happened.
Yep. Exactly right. I put it up again today, the same things. 13 months ago, I had only 6 people support me on that. Today, I had 30 support me, but it still went down because the Liberal National Party voted against that bill, what I put up today. So they're not interested. I have been having talks with ministers, and I had a talk with the minister responsible for this, agriculture, that is Bridget McKenzie, about the code of conduct, which we need immediately. I'm sick of the procrastination that goes on here. Decisions aren't made. This started in 2014 about the code of conduct, which we need now. She said we will look at bringing it in about the second week in November. Then it will go through a consultation process. I said, that's rubbish. I said, you don't need to wait till June, July next year to bring this in. I said, it needs to happen now. I said, you don't need consultation. You've had enough consultation on all this. I heard from the farming sector, the Dairy Farmers Association. They said, all we need is 3 weeks consultation. We helped draft that code of conduct with them, so they know what's in it. So if she wants to put it off till next year, it's not good enough, and I will push for it. And I've also said I think she's got a conflict of interest here because her state of Victoria has not gone down like the rest of the country.
No, it hasn't.
In that state, the farmers don't have to have a contract with the processors. They can actually do their trade, whereas the rest of the country are restricted with these contracts they have to have with the processors. So in Victoria, they've got over 1 million head of cattle, whereas in the other states, Queensland's down to about 80,000, and you've got about 160, 190,000 in New South Wales. So it's a conflict of interest as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you on the conflict of interest, of course, and that dairy farmers in Victoria, they're in much better shape. They've had obviously higher rainfalls. They've got a higher milk fat into their milk. There's more control with the processors. I think you and Alan have hit upon the issue, the most important issue in all of this. We say we do all of these things for our farmers, but we've allowed the processors of wheat, of rice, and particularly of dairy, be bought up by foreign interests, and they screw our farmers down on the price that goes in. So this idea that you can't interfere in a market, it's a bit like energy, really. It's not a market. None of this is a market. It's not a market. It's not a proper market. It's not functioning as a market.
But see, Pauline, take the other point, which is most probably even more important than that one you talked about, the code of conduct. And just to put it simple, what Pauline's saying is there needs to be a code of conduct so that processors, as Peter just said, can't screw the farmer at the farm gate price. The process is the farmer milks the cows. That milk is bought by the processor, many of them foreign owned, and then they go on to the retailer and sell the milk. But at the moment, Pauline, it's even worse than that, isn't it? That people are selling their herds. You know this, the Darling Downs, they're walking off and they can't afford to feed their stock. And I begged the Prime Minister today to make cash immediately available. Even, Pauline, I reckon, buy the stuff that William was going to sell at Gunnedah. Don't let them be slaughtered. The government buy the damn stock, keep them alive because they're the genetics, they're the breeders.
You got to put it someplace now. I used to breed cattle myself, so I went through the horrendous drought. So I understand because I had to hand feed the cattle. I only had about 30 head of cattle just on my small property. But the whole fact is, all right, there's few things that you can actually do here. When you have a glut of lucerne or grain for the cows, then the government should buy that up and put it in storage. It will keep for many years. So we're going through drought all the time. If the government bought it up when there's glut on it and buy it from the farmers, put it in storage, use that in time of drought.
Good point.
When it comes to actually the water, pay the farmers who can put in their own dams on their properties. Stop shutting them down from putting dams on their own properties.
Yeah, particularly important in Queensland.
Give them the money to build the dams.
Yeah, but Pauline, we've got private.
Give them the money to build the dams.
But you've made this point.
There's another thing.
Yeah. You've made this point. You've made this point before.
And I'll say about the herds.
Yeah, you've made this point before about the Water Act of 2004, which now enables people to buy water when they don't own land. And so we've got international conglomerates who own enough water.
Correct.
One of them in particular owns enough water to fill the Warrenora Dam, and they actually charge extortionate prices, which the farmer can't afford. Pauline, we could talk all night. We've run out of time. Where do you think you can take this matter now after today?
All right, I've got the backing of the Greens and the Labor Party that I will now push for this a Senate inquiry into it, or it goes to committee, and let's take it around the country to give the farmers a voice on this if they won't do anything about it. I will push till we get the code of conduct. And just last thing, about your herds, herds, have a national register that people who want to adjust their cattle put for nothing, but the government pays for the transport to adjust the cattle on people's properties to help out the farmers.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Just a quick suggestion from me too, because your agriculture senator that you talked about, Bridget McKenzie, she's obviously in the Senate with you. I think you should suspend standing orders and force her to put the code of conduct into the parliament this week so it can be dealt with, so it can have its consultation phase, because I don't buy that we're not going to see this code of conduct till the middle of next year. No. You and I know if they want to do something urgently, they can. I'd force her hand.